We'll be knowing that exact date. Vote for or against 8 before the budget estimates are read. Also by the financiers, we expect the budget to be read this Thursday. Kenyans will be watching keenly, hawk-eyed to know where their MP vote will go. The committee, of course, we are expecting that Kembani Kuria is a very busy man. And of course, we have an MP as one of my panelists, so we will be getting to that. All right, let me introduce my panelists, 3 distinguished gentlemen. Karibuni sana. And I begin with my immediate left, where we have Honorable Alpha Ondieki Miruka, who is the MP for Bomachoge Chache. Karibu sana.
Asante.
In Kisii County.
Yeah.
Just next to him, we have Gibson Gisore, who is a constitutional lawyer and also a leadership and governance expert. And just next to him, we have Tolsten Alenga, who is also a policy and governance expert. Gentlemen, karibuni sana.
Thank you very much.
First of all, let's begin with what we have been watching here. And especially, I'm quite sure it resonates very well with you, with you because there have been talks about legislation. But first things first, the president has handed a check of 5 million shillings and also handed some keys to the record breaker, Faith Kipyegon. Mheshimiwa.
That's so encouraging, eh? In fact, it's the best thing I've ever seen, a president doing. Let me tell you, appreciating those young people, they really struggle a lot. And they come from a humble background. When you find that, you may find that they even don't own houses, but because of that talent, when the president himself appreciates that one, that's a very big step in terms of talent promoting and recognizing our youth and the young people, that when you invest in talent pays more than a career. In fact, within a second, he has been given now 5 million check with the key of a house of worth 6 million. So encouraging. Kudos to the president.
Yes.
Yes.
Wakili.
I guess I want to congratulate the world beaters who are the sportsmen of Kenya who raise our flag in foreign lands. And you know, there's nothing sweet, Troy, like a national anthem being played in one of the major cities in the world, that a certain person from a village in Kenya, which may not even be known, has explored their talent, and our flag is being raised in foreign land and our national anthem being played several years sometimes. So that feeling gives me the joy that I'm proud to be a Kenyan, and I guess it should be able to reverberate across the leadership of this country, because we have a lot of things to celebrate, except the small things which we get wrong. So when we see this, we need to encourage this. From a legal perspective, I would want to add that we need, through Mheshimiwa, I think if Mheshimiwa needs assistance, we'll help him draft a bill, which is going to help anchor this in law, so that anybody who breaks a world record like Faith has done, or Romanya has come from wherever, he has put in a lot of work. I'm sure even those guys he's competing against, they know it's a matter of time that he's going to beat them. I can see the fear in them when after they have won, they still look at the guy and wonder, did I beat this guy? Because the fear is in them, because he has created that atmosphere. So the potential he has is going to make us really happy in the near future, and I hope that we can have this in law, so that it's not about tokenism, it's about an entitlement. If I do this, I will be able to get a specific set of pack, which I should be able to even I should be able to report back to my family that, you know, I used to run, and this is what gave me what it is that you're enjoying now. My grandfather, I have to say, used to be an athlete, and for the stories he used to tell me, now is since past, he used to tell me that I mean, it was very interesting that he could be able to run, and some of the things, even the cows he got to marry my grandma, it was through running, and even he got to join the police force because of his running, which of course gave him a base to provide for the family. So those are some of the things we need to look at and be able to encourage.
Alenga, the gesture by the president and also by the Ministry of Sports, we've seen the minister and also the chair of the sports committee in Parliament were there at State House, and they have promised that they will better things for people who fly the Kenyan flag. We have seen athletes in Kenya decide to switch allegiance to other countries, and when you hear what they are given vis-a-vis what they get here in the country, you say, well, it's a good thing that despite the fact that they are Kenyans and they have decided to switch allegiance, it's good for their career and their bill as well.
First and foremost, Troy, many thanks for welcoming me to your show once again in such a long time, and good morning to our viewers.
It's been a while.
Yeah, sure. So I want to say this with clarity of thought, that it's a very good moment to see athletes being recognized by the head of state, because for a long time these ladies and gentlemen have been winning on the international platform, taking the Kenyan flag out there and raising it high on a huge summit of hope and excellence. And back home we just keep quiet on them. Usually we will see them just being welcomed by their tribesmen at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, and that ends there. So when we start walking this path of recognizing those who are doing outstanding efforts in society, then it encourages those young children that are dreaming of being athletes, being footballers and all that. It must not be forgotten also, in the same breath, the president recognized Michael Olunga, who is doing great in football, and he's scoring really much outside there, and he's actually leading the Kenyan team that has gone out to play just yesterday. So when you look at that kind of atmosphere, it's really a good thing. So we must really be very frank and congratulate the president for leading this. And then just as Wakili said, we need to now establish a long-lasting framework that then recognizes all these efforts, so that when they come in, there is already an existing framework of reward and recognition. We have seen in a very long time, we have rewarded the wrong people. You in the media have a record of that. We cannot even count the number of times we've recognized the wrong people that cannot even give any encouragement to our children out there. But then when we start like this, we have started rewriting our wrongs, and this is very good. I expect and I am hoping in the next Mashujaa Day, we're going to see many honors coming in that order. That will be really good.
Yes, and gentlemen, I would really love for us to discuss that for the next 2 hours or so, having started out as a sports journalist, so I feel quite tied to that as well. But away from that, Mheshimiwa, the bill itself, of course it has rattled a lot of feathers. Let's first begin with Wanjiku today. The bill itself was written in English, which of course locks out a lot of Wanjikos. And another thing is that the public participation was not, if you ask me, it was quite short. This is something that we need to relook at.
Yeah, of course I agree, the period was a bit short. Okay, it follows the nature of the bill. There are some bills, when they go to public participation, that's adequate time. But for this one, because it was affecting most key issues affecting our Kenyans, it needed some time. But remember, that's now as per the law and standing orders. You may not change the time frame for public participation for a specific bill. It's there uniform for any bill. But again, it's good that it went for public participation. But I doubt whether Wanjiku was closed out. I'm sure the input, if you see the bill now, the committee has done some changes.
The amendments they have in
yeah, they have in Naivasha. They retreat in Naivasha. They've recommended some slight changes. For example, in fuel and housing levy, they are trying to say we reduce the housing levy from 3% to 1.5%. That means 1.5% from the employer and the 1.5% from the employee. It makes now 3%. Remember, it was 3%. And again, it has made some changes between if you earn now 500,000 to 800,000, your pay should increase by 2.5%, not 5%. Now from 800,000 to above, then it will be now 5%. They have done some tremendous changes, which I'm sure we will gonna adapt in the floor of the House. But the bill is not popular to Kenyans because of the negativity of the other people.
And again, it's in English. We don't have it in Kiswahili, I believe.
All in vernacular.
No, at least not vernacular. Let's say Kiswahili.
That is true, by the way. We should be having a bill in Kiswahili,
Yes.
for the Wanjiko to understand it.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, even if it's in English, we have many people interpret it the way they understand it to Wanjiko.
Unfortunately, when we are trying to translate that, Wanjiko has to rely on politicians, and we know as politicians there's somewhere where your bread is buttered, so you have to look at that, because Azimio, they are about to throw out the bill, but in your brigade, Kenya Kwanza, they have said that they're going to support that. So Wanjiko is at the mercy of Mheshimiwa.
But let me tell you, the bill is going to assist Wanjiko. Yeah. In fact, the bill in its totality, it's focusing on Wanjiko's welfare. Because the housing levy is giving houses for the Wanjiko. Yeah, the rich people have the houses. You have the house in yourself, you have a mortgage. But now the 2.5%, if it's passed, or 3%, or 1.5%, if it's passed, then the Wanjiko will get a house. Remember, the bill is now generating more revenue to the country. That means we are going to have more money circulating in our country, in our economy. Then now Wanjiko will benefit. We will be having more development in terms of road network. We'll be having quality education. Universal health care will be catered for. Now the bill is trying to broaden the tax correction base. In that way, we are able to sustain our needs as a country.
All right. Wakili, looking at this bill, we saw the Busia Senator Okia Omtata decide that he's not even going to wait until it becomes an act of parliament, and he decided to seek redress in the corridors of justice. What remedies do we have? Or was his petition a little bit more premature?
There's no petition which can be premature, and I want to congratulate Okia Omtata that even after transitioning to parliament, he still has the ear of the people and is acting in the best interest of the people. You realize that for the longest he has been the person fighting public interest litigation, much as he's not an advocate, and that gives impetus to our constitution, which allows any sound Kenyan or who feels that the constitution is being offended should be able to courageously move to the court and be able to ensure that that is arrayed the fears which Kenyans have, or if the government wants to make a move against the public which is not fair, can be able to be addressed by the court. And Okia Omtata has been leading that. That is very commendable. For what he expects, I think what we expect from the courts is the court to look at the whole bill in a very sober way, because it affects Kenyans. What I think is Okia is going to court for is not that it should not be passed. What he's actually arguing is at the sections which offend the constitution, and he pointed out quite a number of them, which are highlighted in his petition. And once the court can be able to sit and deliberate on this, whether they are constitutional or non-constitutional, then we can be able to, because there's no reason we pass a bill which is going to offend the constitution, because the constitution is normally referred to as the grand norm, the key document which we derive our governance, which we derive our leadership, which we derive our operations as government. If we start offending it for the sake of collecting money or for the sake of any other interest, then we might as well throw it away and just start operating on whims of people. So that is why I want to commend Okia Omtata for that effort, and we hope the court will be able to find a favorable decision in that particular respect, so that we don't proceed while we leave the constitution behind. That has been the norm in the previous constitution, which we had, because it was not clear-cut, and political leadership or political whims used to take the order of the day. It's very sad that whatever politicians conceive in their mind is as good as law. However much we have a constitution which needs to guide them.
Yes.
So we need to have certain parameters, and these parameters can only be derived from the constitution, that whatever you do in this particular, for example, Troy, if I might just give you a small sneak preview, we're talking about this money. However much Mheshimiwa is elated that it has been reduced to 1.5 to make a total of 3%. under which framework? Because the finance bill is not going to be the framework for building houses. We need a legal framework. I mean, I saw somewhere they are talking about that whoever steals this money can only be fined 10,000. I mean, this is a huge money we have collected from Kenyans. We need a clear framework which we need to discuss and agree that indeed we are building houses and this is the framework. So the 3% we are giving, we understand where it's going. Now, we are being hoodwinked to give the 3%, more or less threatened and forced to give the 3%. And then thereafter we start figuring out, how do we go about the legal challenges? You know, that is very wrong. Policy needs to be in place first. We need to have the legal framework in place first before you even start talking about building houses. Building houses is not a walk in the park.
Wakili, one of the proposal has been that it can be pushed to about January next year to give us around 6 months or so to plan and put the right framework so that the exercise may kick off from maybe January.
I will agree with that because what I don't want to have is another scam. You know, Kenyans are good at making scams. And when you see something being forced around, and you know that's a lot of money, once you collect all that money from Kenyans and you don't have a clear framework, it will first be stolen. I mean, people are suffering. So if somebody who is put in charge and there's no clear, will first run away with it, get fined 10,000, and then you will relax.
All right, we will be looking at that because it's a proposal by MP GK Ruko. But Tolsten, we had the president and also the minority whip, Junet Mohammed. They both more or less like threatened the members with dire consequences if they go against either voting or not voting against aid. And where does this leave Wanjiku? You know, she is the one who elected these members of parliament who we expect to vote for or against the bill.
Troy, when discussing this finance bill, a couple of things come to the fore. Number one is the infallible nature that our governments usually assume, the godliness, the godlike nature that they cannot be wrong, they are always right. That's why you find things are being pushed down the throat. Even despite people from many quarters saying we are not comfortable with this. As it were, Kenyans do not oppose a finance bill. Kenyans are opposing a couple of issues within that finance bill. So if we have a government for the people and by the people that recognizes that there is room for dialogue, there is room for listening to their employers who are the people, then that government will be willing to discuss further, because it's not like we are dying tomorrow. We have time. We can actually sit on the table and streamline that bill and agree about a couple of things. Number two, the second issue that comes to the fore is the mischief within that bill, and the mischief is largely in the housing levy, because if we look at it practically, the government is telling you, for the first time, the government is so serious about providing you a house. Like, they really want you to have a house no matter what. Whether you had another one, the government wants to add you another one, you know? So then I ask myself, if you're married, your wife is being deducted their percentage, you're being deducted your percentage, is government going to give you 2 houses so you agree where you live or where you meet? There is also the issue of the amount being contributed. Is that amount really enough to buy someone a house? So that's the mischief around that. So ideally, what I understand from all this thing is that this housing levy is something disguised to replace foreign borrowing. So instead of borrowing, let's get some money from Kenyans here and there. If we do like a deduction for 1 year, and then we do the second year, at least we will have gotten the float to run the country for the next 3 years.
Imagine before they out 8-9 billion.
Before they realize there was no house coming forth. Because if somebody seriously wants to provide you a house, but is also providing you with an exit strategy after 7 years, they only need that thing for some time, you know, just to stabilize them. So government would have been very frank and just tell us, We don't have money. Let's form a larger WhatsApp group for the country. Whatever you have, throw in there. We have.
That's sophisticated information.
I'm sure you have something to say about that. And before we do that, let's first of all cross over to Kisumu and get some sentiments from Kenyans there. Because Mheshimiwa, a number of Kenyans have argued that the 8-9 billion shillings per month could offer some good money for the government to do its work. But just marinate on that. Let's first of all cross over to Kisumu, where Wycliffe Okech is on standby. And I'm quite sure he has sampled some responses from Kenyans in the lakeside city of Kisumu. Wycliffe?
Nairobi, like you've mentioned it, we are of course coming to you live from Kisumu. What a wonderful discussion you are having right there in the studio regarding the finance bill. We do know that the bill is going to be taken back to the Parliament today for the second reading, which may also prompt debating to either today or tomorrow. But again, this is a bill that has divided opinion right down in the middle. And right here with me in Kisumu, I have one of the opinion leaders here by the name of Chris Owala. We are representing one of the civil organizations here in Kisumu that is a Community Initiative Action Group. Just also to share with us what he thinks about the bill, what clauses ought to be amended before the bill is passed. You know, so much has come with the bill here, but then Chris, also if you just inject your thinking and your opinion about this entire bill, what some specific clauses would you want to see amended before the bill is passed? Briefly.
Thanks a lot, Wycliffe. I think the bill has raised a lot of heat. You have heard about what Kenyans are saying. And I think Kenyans are also oppressed. That's why they are saying all of those they are saying. But like any other document, the bill has got some good component and also a better part of it that are not good. One of the things that is also troubling Kenyans, the biggest thing is this 16% on fuel. And this, you know, the implication of putting it 16%. It means that the transport will go up, all the everything that you buy in the shop will go up. One of the things that is controversial in this bill is that the taxing of insurance benefit. If you got an accident today and the insurance pays you, people are asking, why should the government again tax me? Are they taxing me for being injured, or they are taxing me for being paid for it? Because this is our income. This is a compensation for if you lost a car, it's a compensation to give you back a car. If you got medication, it's a compensation to help you pay for your medication. Again, another area that is controversial is that this turnover tax. You know, when you say that first you reduce initially it was 1 million. If you earn 1 million above, it's too late. The government must pass a budget by 30th of June. Sure. The government cannot stop running, but they could have say, let's revert back the old bill, the Finance Act of 2022-2023, as the people engage on this, because this bill has got a lot of impact on our life. And even if you look at this housing issue, even if you get it 1.5%, the contradiction that is here, that how do you create two housing units? One, the National Housing Corporation is the one that's supposed to manage the housing scheme in Kenya. Within that parliamentary laws, you are creating another housing scheme. Where you are going to domicile this housing fund is also not clear. And these are the elements people are saying, why are you in a hurry to create a fund? Why don't you agree with the structure first? Then now you create a fund that everybody will be able to agree with, so that when we contribute, every citizen must contribute. That's a fact. But contribution on a tax, you cannot tax people to the extent that they bleed. If you milk a cow, milk and get milk. But if you milk and start seeing blood, you should stop milking.
Thank you, Chris. Just for the sake of time, we will be able to continue this off air. But then, thank you for now. Troy, that is Chris Owala, a representative from the Community Initiative Action Group. That is one of the civil society organizations here in Kisumu. He's telling us about some of the clauses that he feels should be amended before this bill actually is introduced to Parliament for debate and actually voting. He's mentioned about the issue of 16% of VAT on petroleum products, which actually, if that bill bill is passed with that clause on it, definitely this is an issue that is going to has a ripple effect on the cost of living, and that is just one of the many issues that he thinks the Parliament should review, or that the committee should review before this bill is actually passed as it is. Well, there's a conversation that continues, and for that moment, for this, I'm going to hand it back to you in studio, Ben, to continue it in the studio, even as I continue it on this other side of here. Back to you, Troy.
That has been my colleague Wycliffe Okech from the lakeside city of Kisumu there, engaging one of the Kenyans, and of course mixed reactions. Mheshimiwa, do you believe this is most controversial bill that has been in the recent past?
This is one of the most controversial bills in the recent past in the history of Kenya.
Yes.
The advantage is, let me give you some insight of this. There is no budget in the Republic of Kenya which should be read all in the process of making without a financial bill. In the budget categorically says that we are going to need this amount of money, for example, 80 billion shillings to make our roads. This amount of money to do our greater sector. Now this money, the financial bill defines where the money is coming from. In every year, that's what happens. But in this particular case, is that now the president is very generous. He's trying to explain to Kenyans that in this government I'm running, this is where I'm going to collect my money to run the government. And this is how I'm going to do it. In this now understanding, most people don't want him to implement. They are now opposing it.
Yeah, but
it's a normal process in budget making.
Picking from what we were talking about here, Tonstan raised a very pertinent issue. Yes, he talked about even the people who knock at your gate in Bomachoge Chache, they don't knock at your gate to ask for houses.
Those people knocking my gate, they don't have employment. They are unemployed. Remember, the housing levy is affecting the employed people who have the payslip. And the essence of this employed people to be deducted 1.5% is to make a house for those ones who don't have. Let me tell you, in the bill, if this is going to, listen, if this is going to be passed, every constituency should be having a minimum of 100 units. Assuming in Kisii County we have now 200 units being constructed for a period of 5 years. Can you figure out how many employment, how many young people will go there to work in that 5 years? How money will be secured within that economy? That means housing is one way of creating employment for young people. The only challenge is a casual, is not permanent employment. For a short period of time, he gets money, he changes his life, and he moves on. Number two, let my colleagues understand how you are supposed to contribute. Your pay slips should be deducted, and this money is gonna be pooled in one center. If you are not interested in buying a house, within 7 years, you request for refund of the money back. But if you're interested, the housing levy and the housing project targets for the low income earners between 10,000 to 26,000. You are going to own a house whereby you contribute 1,000 a month for 24 years, and you own a 2-bedroom house. That goes for around 5 million, 4 million. We are trying to create affordable houses for the people who don't have employment. That's the essence, actually.
All right. Wakili, some pundits have argued that Azimio principles want the bill to sail as it is, because that will give them leverage and political fodder for the maandamanos that the civil societies have talked about, because a lot of Kenyans and even civil societies have said that if this goes and passes, then we will have to go to the streets, of which the CS has warned against that. Do you believe that is indeed the principles could be, they want it to pass so that they may even remain relevant in the political scene? I'm quite sure Mwashiwa could say yes, but let's first of all hear your response.
On the political circles, Troy, anything is possible. If I see you are trying to insist to fail, then I will encourage you on so that you fail. I have a reason to again say you elected a failure. So that could be one. But I think from their quarters, they have been very clear that they don't want the bill. They don't want the bill to pass, and they have shown all signs. But if that comes to pass, that it passes, then they will have another reason. In politics, you create a reason out of even nothing. So they will have another reason to jump into the streets and demonstrate and say, you see, this is what we told you, now it has happened. So other than that, let's try to be a bit careful and cautious on how we deal with Kenyans. Mheshimiwa has been very clear on how this is supposed to be done, but from my legal perspective, I still see some danger because lacking a clear framework on how this is going to be implemented, because currently we are talking about the Kenya Mortgage Refinance, which is an act that has not even picked, which was set up in Uru's time, and that has been ongoing. So are we going to abandon it? We have the National Housing Corporation, which has been doing houses and giving houses to the people. Why don't you just incentivize that? Give them this money, because that one has been running, I think, for almost the entire period we have been independent. Incentivize them, get this money, be put under that particular docket. They do houses for people, as they have been doing, and they have never been asking for money from people to build houses. They have been building houses. There is Uru's projects which were done in Gara. Houses were done. Why don't we continue with that framework also under the KMRC? We ensure that this goes on. We even sit down and say, now, maybe this has not picked pace. Let's take it to the constituencies the way Mheshimiwa is saying. I mean, those are very clear framework. But now, what I'm getting from this finance bill is that we are going to run away from that, collect the money, and then we'll start figuring out how to use it, unless I'm mistaken. That is where my fear and my worries are, because if we do go down that road, we are aware of how many scams we have suffered. This is going to be a bigger scam than the Golden Bag scam.
Alenga, when Mheshimiwa was speaking, you really had some burning issue, but I'll let you to do that. And still, when we're talking about politics, it's supposed to be, even the president said that he wants it not to be a secret ballot. He wants to see how the MPs vote. I believe Wanjiko should be the first person to tell the MP, the residents of Bomachoge Chache, that Mheshimiwa, we want to see which side you vote.
I was taken aghast when Mheshimiwa said that the essence of the housing levy is to raise funds to be able to provide houses for those that are not employed. So then I was just thinking in retrospective, how many people in Bomachoge are going to refuse to work completely because some employed people in Bomachoge will be taxed and then they will get a house, you know? So I'm just trying to understand, is this bill therefore then a progressive bill or a retrogressive bill that encourages a particular constituency of Kenyans to refuse to work because another constituency will be deducted to give them housing, you know? And then another issue I am looking at is, I think the whole idea of housing is a very fantastic issue, you know? But then I am just wondering why the Kenya Kwanza government has refused completely to hear from Kenyans on how best we could achieve this. For instance, if we had a PPP on this issue, where we have a public-private partnership, talk to agencies that are in housing already, and then make this housing levy be a voluntary issue, in the sense that you give Kenyans security, like for once, you're not dealing with a private company which might disappear with your money, but you're dealing with a government that has structures, so whatever you contribute is secure and safe. We have issues in land purchases in this country. So tell Kenyans, for the first time, this land will be allocated by government, so you're sure about the papers and everything. So there will be no other issue whatsoever, you know, so that Kenyans can tap into this housing levy voluntarily, and then you don't peg it at a particular amount, so that if I am well blessed and I want to have my house in less than 1 year, I can push there my 500,000 every month and I have my house, so that it is a competitive thing. And while that is happening, so that we can see testimonials, like when Troy comes and says, you know, I threw here my 200,000 every month, I have my house. So you can actually say, you can actually encourage some other person to say, hey, let me try it. But you know, we are doing this thing with faith, you know. we're just running with faith that maybe after 24 years, if I'm not dead, I'll have a house, you know. So clearly, this offends the very basic concepts of humanity. Like, this is how I'm planning my life. You get?
Anyway, the guy is negative about it.
So ideally, so for me, I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it from that perspective. Like, if it was a willing issue, an issue of willingness, then I can tap into it to the extent of my financial ability, so that I'm not limited to that minute expenditure. A minute expenditure that maybe if I was earning a salary of 1 million like the president, I would be wondering now, why are they deducting so little like this? Are they really going to raise a house out of this man? Are they going to really build the kitchen size that I want with this 1.5% they are deducting from me? You get? So those are the issues that the president would have opened them to dialogue, so that we streamline and see how best we can achieve this. Because that issue of housing, as it were, it's a fundamental issue, and this country has housing issues. But then if we just want to push it to the people without really understanding how do the people want. Because as Kenyans, there's also how we want things to be done. Even when we go and buy bread, we either want it with margarine or with eggs. We don't get the shopkeeper telling us, have bread.
Okay. Respond to that.
Yes, let me respond.
Something about the amendments.
Yes.
You have seen some of the amendments, and indeed, like we are talking about, the proposals to do 1.5% as opposed to the 3%. Also, the content creators. I want you to speak about the amendments.
Before I go to amendments, let me be clear about this housing levy. It's not something that has come now. It's something in every government is within its proposals. You remember between 2013 and 2017, Uhuru wanted to bring it back. And the only challenge Uhuru got as a former president during that time, court went to court and stopped it. In the manifesto of Azimio, you categorically see they say they would deduct 1.5 from the payslip and 1.5 from the employer. Now, to me, my small understanding, this housing levy is having problems to those ones who don't want it, because maybe his preferred person is not in power to implement it. That's the problem.
I believe the biggest problem is the framework of how
the framework is there already. We have houses. In Homa Bay, houses are being constructed. In President recently launched from Langata. Others have been
Wakili will tell us where they are anchored in law.
Wakili should understand that every ministry in Kenya, money is collected to a specific pool, then every ministry is assigned to spend and implement as per the requirements.
All right.
Yes.
Touch on the amendments.
Now, remember, this bill is in the stages of becoming a law. It has now been completed from public participation. The concerned committee has retreated in Naivasha, has made a lot of changes, maybe amendments. Now it's going to be introduced to Parliament. Now this is the time we're going to discuss about it, we debate about it, item by item. We reinforce our minds, we put our input, and then now we decide either to change, to amend, or to retain the way it is. And remember, there is no voting. Voting will only come when we are divided. If one side of the house is not satisfied, then we conquer in division, then now we will go and vote. Remember, there are several items in this financial bill. It's not only one. Because we are given around 3 to 4 days to work on it, and then now we decide about it. That's time. This is the time it's going to come to Parliament, and we debate about the bill. Yes.
All right. Wakili.
It's good Mheshimiwa is raising that there is a clear framework, but you know, we are Kenyans and we have been here. I mean, every money spent or every scam that has happened in this country, there's been a clear framework. I mean, and then money gets disappear. It has to disappear. So my worry or my advice would be, let's first talk this thing through. Let's have public participation properly on this, not in the finance bill. Let's just put this thing aside, discuss, have a clear framework, agree on which framework are we, if I'm going to get a house, how am I going to get it? Who is building this house? How is it that if I want to walk away out of this program, how am I going to be entitled to my money? Which, of course, they're trying to say, but we need a discussion in it. Those are the ideas. We need a discussion. Everybody loves a good house.
All right.
We have a challenge with housing. I've tried to take time and look at the mechanism which Singapore used, which is now one of the very successful countries in implementing that. The way we are going about this is not the correct way, because the legal framework they had is not what we are trying to embrace. I don't know when the president came here what they shared with our president, but clearly what happened there is not what is happening. This is something which can change this country, but we need it clear on law, and in every other aspect we need this to be anchored in Kenyans' mind that there is nothing fishy. You see, as long as Kenyans feel that there is something fishy, you need to buy the minds of Kenyans, and that's what Mheshimiwa and the government should be able to array the fears in people's heads that, you know, this money is likely to disappear. We are being forced into this. It should be a willing seller. That is why we need to have a situation whereby, as Kenyans, we need to come voluntarily, not being forced that you need to do this by force. All right. So some of these things are things which are dear to Kenyans. Yes. Some of the, I'm saying Mheshimiwa has already started to get worked up. I mean, and then after being worked up, they start saying now, these people don't understand. They dismiss it that, you know, these are Azimio people, these people don't understand. Yes. Some of us do not support Azimio, but we just want to be told in a very clear manner, like a 2-year-old, this is what is going to happen, so that we understand.
Because of the interest of time, let's have a 1 minute talk as you wrap up.
I think as Mheshimiwa readies himself to go and debate this finance bill, and particularly the housing issue, there are just a few issues I want you to put into consideration. Number one, that bill does not distinguish who is an employer and who is an employee. So it just says an amorphous term, employer shall contribute this, employee shall contribute this. In that context, I'm trying to say this. There are expatriates in this country who don't intend to stay here. Maybe they have a short stay, 2 years, 5 years. They don't intend to own property here. But by dint that they are employees within that company that has brought them, they shall be subjected to this levy. Number two, there's also the issue of who will be in charge of this. The bill is incomplete about who will be in charge of the whole thing, because it says later on the Minister for Housing and the CS for Finance shall now work out a framework post facto. That is scaring to us. And then another issue about the housing levy is when you look at it from the perspective of securing jobs, it's going to give employers added responsibilities, and that might easily force some people to be kicked out of jobs, because that 1.5 maybe for a company that has 1,000 employees, like maybe a company like Safaricom, which has about 7,000 employees, how much money are they now going to put into that kitty? That will scare people who want to set up companies in Kenya, because it will now make our environment very expensive to pay employees.
Be going to Bomas, but the tyranny of numbers will work, right, Mheshimiwa?
Exactly.
Yeah, of course, the tyranny of numbers will work in the house.
So you have your way. All right. Unfortunately, we have to wrap it up. Thank you, indeed, gentlemen, so much. And for now, we are crossing over to the Bomas of Kenya. I was with Honorable Alpha Miruka, who is the MP for Bomachoge Chache, and also Wakili Gibson Gisore, and also Tolsten Alenga, who is a governance and leadership expert. Let's hear what Dr. Juma Mukwana, the PS for Trade, is talking about. They're having a trade at the Bomas of Kenya. They have a trade fair.
We would like to acknowledge the support that we've continued to get, not just from the government, but also from development partners, to grow a robust institution that is equal to the task. As you can see, the problem is widespread, huge, big, with serious economic consequences. And so the SCA must play its role in mitigating, in fighting, in preventing importation and production of counterfeit products within the country. As you will see, counterfeit products outcompete genuine products, but they are also endangering our safety. They are taking over other people's intellectual property rights. They undermine the economy. It is like economic terrorism. And so I am happy that we are all here to put our heads together, to learn from each other, to exchange notes, to share experiences on how we are all dealt with this issue. And I really want to appreciate the support that you've given to SEA in the fight against counterfeit. I also appreciate that we are not going just to fight counterfeit by through enforcement, the activities of creating awareness, research, documentation, outreach and awareness, that these are important activities that we need to deploy. The use of technology cannot overemphasize. And so I want to say that you have the support of the government of Kenya in this fight against the counterfeit, and we believe that all of you who have come here have come to acquire new skills and new tools so that you can be enlisted in the army of fighting counterfeits. We also appreciate that one agency cannot be able to deal with this issue, and that's why the Kenyan approach has been to have a multi-agency approach, where you have SEA in the driving seat, but you have the support of the police, the DCI, the Kenya Bureau of Standards, the Kenya Revenue Authority, the border control, and all these other things put together. As a counterfeit agency, it is very, very important that your work is above board. You have to make sure that your systems, your regulations, your activities are above board, that the citizens have confidence in the work that you're doing. And so it's very, very important, not only for SEA, but for all of us that are involved in this space, to ensure that we do an open, clean, and accountable job, so that the people that we are working with, and even the importers, feel that the system that we are using is fair to everyone. In terms of growing industry, I would like to say that the new government of Kenya has very robust ideas about how to promote industry, and apart from fighting counterfeits, we also putting a number of other policy measures to make sure that we increase our manufacturing from the current 7.3% to about 15% by 2025. So we have a very, very ambitious plan, and we are working through several mechanisms. One of them is which you had yesterday, we were launching it. It's called the County Aggregation and Industrial Parks. Kenya is divided into 47 counties, each with a governor, with their own cabinet, and we have come up with a formula where each county is identifying the value chains that can provide raw materials in that county, and through partnership with the national government and the county governments, we are co-funding through a project that is worth 500 million from this starting financial year to put up a common manufacturing facility. So in each county, we'll be putting up warehouses for raw materials, and warehouses for finished products, and sheds for manufacturing that will be supplied with electricity, water, and everything else, effluent management, to allow small people to go into manufacturing just by plugging into these spaces. And we are hoping that through this we can start to drive the industrial revolution that has been very evasive for all of us. Already 14 counties have advertised construction of those industrial parks. So as a government, we are thinking out of the box, we are taking very bold steps, and we think that county industrial parks will be an important game changer that to produce at the county level. We are also looking at our industrialization policy to make sure that it brings together all aspects. In Kenya, we are promoting the policy of Buy Kenya, Build Kenya, where all government institutions have to buy 30% of all their requirements from locally manufactured products. And this has worked extremely well as a way of promoting and encouraging those that want to go into that space. We are also coming up with an industrialization bill to support some of the work that we want to achieve. We, as you listened to the President, he has indicated that we are getting a lot of imports. We have identified products that we think are being imported, but we can make here in Kenya. We are not going to stop from importing, but we are going to tax them. So starting this financial year, a number of products will be attracting an import levy. And so if you're importing something that we can make, then you be charged a fee, and that fee of an industrialization fund that will then help support people within the country that want to buy machinery, expand their manufacturing. So we are hoping that in this coming financial year, we should be able to raise nearly 2 billion shillings for that fund. And we are also having interest from development partners, and we are hoping to develop a fund specifically going to support young people that want to go. This financial year, we have also put 600 million in Kenya shillings into a fund that we are calling B1.
Well, that on your screen is Dr. Juma Mukwana, who is the PS Ministry of Investment and Trade, and they are talking about, it is actually an anti-counterfeit conference at the Bomas of Kenya. They have been able to pick up, their government is putting up measures to ensure that we reduce the entry of counterfeit products in the country, and also there's a bill in the pipeline to ensure that we do get legit products and support our local industries. More on this, we will be having that in our subsequent bulletin. But allow me now to introduce our second topic, where we are looking at the Natural Resources Benefit Sharing Bill. It might sound like a big jargon, but the good thing is that we have Muturi Kamau here, who is the National Network Coordinator for the Kenya Oil and Gas Working Group. Two things that I've said in the last 1 minute sounds like jargons. Exactly what do you do at the Kenya Oil and Gas Working Group, being the National Network Coordinator, before we even look at the bill itself?
Thank you, Troy. The Kenya Oil and Gas Working Group is a public interest network that was formed in 2009, where different like-minded organizations and individuals came together and decided that we need a platform for engagement. Currently, we have over 900 both individual and organizational membership spread across this country, and specifically in areas of oil and gas exploration. Our mandate is pretty much looking at giving indigenous communities a voice, as well as engaging with policymakers on matters policy, as such the Natural Resources Benefit Sharing Bill and the likes, as well as ensuring that we create a platform, a neutral platform, where government, industry players, and civil society, as well as communities, can actually engage freely and move discussions forward within the petroleum sector.
And how are you working with those indigenous communities to ensure that they have a voice, especially when where there's gas and oil exploration? A practical example is in Turkana.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So actually, a large percentage of the membership comes from Turkana. We, for instance, work with organizations such as the Turkana Empowerment Advocacy Group, who have been our core partner since we began, and mostly we create synergies where even these indigenous Turkana communities who have come together in their own self-determined way have gotten platforms such as that to engage. We now have many more, including the Sanyanait Assembly, the Ekalale Assembly, who are actually coming together to ensure that they have a platform for collective voice. So ours is pretty much to support this platforms and networks, just to ensure that they have a place where they can actually raise any concerns, be it waste management, be it public participation, be it matters environmental impact assessment. So we have a very clear framework on how we engage with this particular community.
And when I hear anything about gas or oil, my first, what comes to my mind first is there has to be some environmental degradation. There could be some pollution as well, or degrading the economy or the forest cover.
Yes.
Now, as a network, how do you ensure that in as much as we are getting the oil and the gas and the other products, we do not degrade the environment or pollute the environment?
All right, thank you. First and foremost, we've had quite a bit of action over the past 12, 13 years. I think a lot of the action was seen when Talo made the announcement that they had discovered commercial quantities of crude oil in Turkana. Government was in a rush to ensure that the governance frameworks were actually in place to ensure that we are able to address such an emerging industry. For instance, before the enactment of the Petroleum Act 2019, we were solely relying on the Petroleum Exploration and Development Act of 1986, CAP 308, which really had not... And
that is what we are using to this day?
No. Okay. By 2019, we had reforms within the sector, and now we have the Petroleum Act 2019. So if you actually look at the two documents, the Petroleum Act is more defined. It's been able to address issues to do with transparency and accountability, how communities can actually benefit. There's a revenue sharing formula that has been provided. Matters decommissioning has actually been identified and addressed. Waste management. So it's tried to take a really holistic approach towards ensuring that the proper governance of the sector is actually in place. So we've actually come a pretty long way. And despite having the law in place, there are always the hurdles that we face. In Turkana, for instance, waste management has been a very major problem. Handling drilling mud and drilling waste from some of these oil installations, you're looking at over 40 plus well pads, has become a challenge. And that is why in the Environmental Management and Coordination Act of 1989, it provides clear mechanisms as to how impact assessment needs to be undertaken. And so it's one of the mandatory legislative requirements that for any project that needs to happen in the country, an EI has to be undertaken. And this pretty much just outlines the impacts as well as the mitigation measures that need to be undertaken. And for instance, for Turkana, you find that we have an environmental impact assessment that was done for the upstream. We have an environmental impact assessment that was done for the Lamu-Lokcha crude oil pipeline. And we have one that was done for the Makeup water pipeline. It's just to identify what would be the potential impacts where some of these infrastructure projects undergo. Because, for instance, for the crude oil pipeline, it will cross some of the protected areas. So some of these industry players need to highlight what are the measures that they need to take in order to ensure that they safeguard both the communities as well as the environment. Very
good. And I'm quite sure a lot of Kenyans would want to know if Talo are still continuing their exploit. But hold the thought. Let's first of all cross over to Kaptagat Forest, where my colleague Frederick Pansayo is currently on standby to give us a feel on the conservation efforts that are there as we go back to this discussion again.
Well, a very good morning to Troy. Like you've said, we're coming live to you from Kaptagat Forest Station in Elgeyo Marakwet County. With me here, I'm joined by one of the foresters and the rangers who undertake in protecting this forest.
It's still holding the blocks.
Good to have you with us here. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Kindly tell us who you are and what you do here.
My name is Belinda Adhiambo. I'm forest assistant here in Kaptagat Forest Station. Kaptagat Forest Station is a station that covers 5,663.3 hectares. It is divided into 4 portions for security purpose. And we have our rangers together. We work with the community to protect our forest. We normally do protection and conservation of forest here in Kenya.
And how does that happen, that protection exactly?
Protection, our rangers, they work with the community, even us, foresters. We work with the community. And then for us to protect the forest because we have different communities around Kaptagat Forest Station. So we need to work with them so that we can protect the forest together.
All right, and how do you work with those communities to ensure that you have a very smooth working environment?
Okay, we create a good relationship with them. We allow them to collect firewood, and then they have projects like beekeeping in the forest. Even we have a project of water. They collect water from the forest. So for them, they benefit from the forest, and also us, we benefit in terms of protection. Because in case of any illegal activities, we have informers. So it makes work easier for the rangers. And even our rangers, they work day and night to protect our forest.
Well, quite interesting. If you say that they work day and night, and there is conditions in this place, how do they really sustain the unbearable cold?
I know Kaptagat is very cold, but we are managing because the Kenya Forest Service has ensured that we have vehicle in case of distant traveling, patrolling throughout the night, even during the day. So we are managing.
And of course, I understand that there's that 15 billion tree initiative by the president, which is said to be achieved by 2032. What is Kaptagat Forest Station doing itself to ensure that at least that achievement comes to book?
Okay, first of all, we are doing seedling production. As such, now we have more than 200,000 seedlings in our nursery. We have sorted seedlings, indigenous, exotic, and then the community, the CFA, they have also their nursery, and we have also we have encouraged the private groups to start their own nursery, which is ongoing. So we have been able by the help of our forest rangers, talking to community on how to do our own production in the nursery. And then this year we are planning we have a target of around 15,000 hectares, which we are completing during this rainy season. And then we have an area of 14.3 hectares for the 7th edition, which is coming up the next month. So we are planting more trees and encouraging people to plant more trees.
All right, let me just request my colleague to pan for our viewers to have a very good picture of what is in this forest. Okay. And from the pictures which you're seeing that there are different kind of trees. How do you plant these trees? How do you mix exotic trees with the indigenous, or you plant them separately?
We plant them separately. We have indigenous separate from plantation trees. Yeah, we don't mix them, but around the water towers area, we normally plant indigenous. Yeah, because we don't want to cut those trees. For plantation, when they mature, we harvest them, we sell. That generates income to Kenya Forest Service. Yeah, and then we do planting. Every year we make sure we plant. Yes.
All right, let me ask you something else. As we strive to achieve that 15 billion tree cover, has Kaptagat Forest Station maybe had some partnership with other private people to ensure that this thing is achieved?
Yes. Our champion, Eliud Kipchoge, has secured a section of more than 58 hectares in Kaptagat Forest Station, planting indigenous trees. It is ongoing. He did it last year. And then we have the Kenya Water Tower. They have also secured more than 40 hectares, planting indigenous. And then we also have more stakeholders coming, working with the UNEP, WWF. They are coming so that we can plant more trees in Kaptagat. Yes.
All right, the last question. I think some few minutes ago we saw the president, Faith Kipyegon, the famous female athlete. Do also athletes maybe have training in such a place?
Yes, here in Kaptagat, even the champion, Eliud Kipchoge, he trains here. And many of our champions, they normally train here in Kaptagat because of the high latitude area, which is conducive for them to practice and then to make them hard enough. Yeah.
All right, those are insights being given. Those are insights by one of the foresters in this place, and she has given us a very good picture of what Kaptagat Forest Station is doing to conserve and protect forest cover in the country. Back to you in studio, Ben Troy.
Thank you. That has been my colleague Frederick Parsayo. He's at Kaptagat Forest in Elgeyo Marakwet there. As you have seen, rangers there ensuring that the 15 billion trees we're talking about by 2030, they have already started out. And of course, even athletes have also joined in, Eliud Kipchoge being one of the names that have been mentioned there in the forest conservation. And talking about conservation matters, we are with Muturi Kamau, who is a national network coordinator for the Kenya Oil and Gas Working Group. We had touched a little about Natural Resources Benefit Sharing Bill. A practical example is Turkana. And I remember the people there were talking about they also need to feel that indeed the oil is coming from their own county. Tell us more about this sharing bill.
Thank you. So, first and foremost, again, moving back to 2012, the moment we were told that there are commercial quantities of crude oil, expectations automatically shot up. To this date, you step into Turkana, you can actually feel the expectations. Communities expect that they will be able to get the revenues that will change their lives. Some will expect, of course, upgrading of infrastructure and the likes. What the Petroleum Act came and did is that it highlighted or proposed a revenue sharing ratio. And it is that 75% of the revenues that accrue from the hydrocarbon exploitation will actually go to the national government. The 20% will go to the county government, and the 5% will go to the local communities where that hydrocarbon resources have been found. And this is, of course, after cost oil has been recovered. This is expenditure by the company, and this is now the profit oil. So the company has also gotten its share of the profit as per the production sharing contract, and the government has gotten its share. However, this again, looking at the Mining Act, it also has its own revenue sharing ratio, which gives 70% to national government, 20% to county, 10% to communities. Other sectors have tried to also give their own revenue sharing ratios. But what this particular bill is coming to do is to try to harmonize and propose that for what revenues that we are supposed to get, then 20% is supposed to go to the sovereign oil fund, and then out of that 80%, which now becomes the 100%, 60% goes to national government, and 40% goes to communities. And I mean, it's important because it tries to harmonize. Of course, there are some sectors where you'll find that especially communities expect to get more. I know there have been concerns from stakeholders from the wildlife conservation areas who have also really tried to understand how this would work for them. And it's important because we have not had this. The first publication for this bill was in 2014. Right now we're in 2023 still having this conversation. At least with this new political regime, we are seeing a bit more traction when it comes to this particular bill. The bill tries also to propose the authority that needs to handle revenues from natural resources exploitation. It also proposes the development of the county benefit sharing committees and the local community benefit sharing forums. So it tries to be more inclusive, because one of the things that we've noticed, especially in the extractives, for the Mining Act specifically, it has the community development agreements. But for this particular bill, it actually comes and says that for natural resources exploiters, they need to come get into agreements with the county governments and develop a county benefit sharing formula. So it has the monetary element to it, but also the non-monetary element in terms of identifying development priority areas for communities and what they actually need to do, because that, as it is right now, is just done ad hoc through the corporate social responsibilities.
All right.
Yes.
And I'm quite sure a lot of Kenyans would want to know exactly what happened to tallow oil. Are we still drilling oil in Turkana? But let's take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Colgate Herbal is formulated from a unique blend of natural herbs and is scientifically proven to strengthen teeth and keep gums healthy. Try Colgate Herbal, scientifically proven for strong teeth and healthy gums.
So hi, my name is Gravia Barbara. I am the clerk of the course for the WRC Safari Rally Kenya. This is my third year as the COC for the WRC event. We've been working on this event since the last one finished. We finished the last one in June, July. Myself and Anwar were out in the stages looking at all the damages, meeting the landowners and so forth. And I think by August or September we had a new route that we sent out to FIA and the WRC, which was approved towards the beginning of this year. So since then we've just been working on the plan for that particular route. We've had small changes from last year, not many. We removed Narasha, we replaced it with Malewa. We ran Malewa 2 years ago, so we put that one back in. Small changes in Osirian, small changes in Kedong. Apart from that, it's almost the same. We're hoping that our spectators can avoid overlapping and parking badly, especially on the Friday night and Saturday night along Moi South Lake Road. It really affects the competitors, our guests from outside. It gets hard for them to get back to the hotel to sleep and then leave in the morning to go back and impress us with their driving skills.
Sioni kama naweza kuhimili siri kubwa namna hii.
Sasa tufanyaje? Nalishakuwa.
Hamtaniharibia. Not in one night. I will not let you.
Toka urudi hata sijui kwa nini umekasirika. Hutaki kuniongelesha, unakaa hauna furaha.
Whatever it is, haikuhusu.
Pili. Kwanza mimi nataka uachane na haya mambo ya kunipigia simu.
Tunatambulika kwa mandhari yetu ya kuvutia,
tamaduni zetu, ukarimu wetu, vyakula vyetu, uchapakazi,
na pia kwa sauti tofauti za watangazaji wetu waliobobea.
Libengo niko hapa aka upcoming sponsor. Bila shaka hapa ni kama PDG, ma deep state pia vile cartels.
Tunaenzi talanta za pwani, tunakuza talanta za hapa kwetu nyumbani.
Tell a friend to tell a friend. Tuko mjengoni kama kawa na wanangu wengine wawili.
Usikose kutegea 103.1 Pwani FM, station ambayo itakupa fursa ya kupata uhondo kamili wa pwani na kuleta Wakenya pamoja.
Pwani FM, tafrija ya kipwani.
Very well, very quickly, let's wrap this conversation. I'm with Muturi Kamau, who is the National Network Coordinator for the Kenya Oil and Gas Working Group, and we are looking at the Natural Resources Benefit Sharing Bill. And the last question I was asking is in regards to how the people are benefiting from where these natural resources are being, for example, if it's mined,
yes,
if it's oil, where the oil is being explored. I come from a country, from a county where we have the geothermal, not the geothermal, but the hydropower.
Yes.
And unfortunately, people there, a lot do not have even the electricity that is there. A lot do not have drinking water that is running there, and a lot don't even have basic social amenities. How are the communities supposed to benefit from this? You've talked about 5%.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and this is why it's very important to have this governance frameworks in place. We already have for some sectors, we already have proposed bills such as this, and it is just there to ensure that for some of these monetary additions that we are supposed to get from the exploitation of natural resources, they are supposed to change the lives and the livelihoods for the people who come from areas where this is being exploited. And The third bit is that we develop very good policies and legislations and regulations, but the implementation then becomes a challenge. If we actually go through with this, it is now going to be, the onus is going to be upon us as a country to ensure that if it's, say, communities that are coming from your village, do we have a local content benefit sharing forum comprised of, communities who actually elect their own members to the committee and who are able to then say that our development priorities are 1, 2, 3, 4. We want boreholes, we want medical supplies for schools, we want this and this. At the same time as we are, as the community is identifying these development priorities, let it not be mistaken by the development priorities that are set by the government of the day, because that is where we lose out. We have seen where companies have actually come and said that we are doing CSR, but the CSR that they are doing is no different than what government, county governments or national government is essentially supposed to do. So there's a very thin line that needs to be distinguished, but if we are actually able to ensure that, first of all, communities understand the provisions of this bill, all stakeholders pretty much understand, and they now get to appreciate that there's a role that they have to play, then it is actually going to go a long way in the realization of this particular bill.
Yes, and you mentioned about conservation efforts. By the way, what happened to the tallow oil? We were actually getting oil from Turkana counties.
Yes.
And we don't see it happen anymore.
All right. So we had quite a bit of action, and by 2017, 2018, we saw the early oil pilot scheme, where the trucks moved crude oil from the Solokcha Basin to Mombasa for export. In fact, it was just recently where the CS for Petroleum and Energy at the Senate actually said that we did make an estimated $23 million from that project, despite the fact that we spent over $50 million. So we kind of made a loss.
That's a lot of.
But the oil and gas sector is pretty interesting, because you'll get companies that are there to just farm in, wait for the share price to go up and farm out. As it is in Turkana, one of the biggest tasks that Talo has had is getting a strategic partner to develop the oil fields. As it is, they've already submitted the revised field development plan to the ministry and IPRA for review, which is then supposed to be presented to the National Assembly for ratification, as provided for in the Petroleum Act. So once we see this, and Talo actually get a strategic partner to not only develop but also undertake further exploration, then we might actually see things moving. And of course, the government has actually come out to say that it is interested in setting aside other areas for exploration in the country. So interesting times, and we definitely are hoping that we can actually get to see that.
It's a good thing that you're speaking so passionate about it, the natural resource benefit sharing bill, so that at least each and everyone may get what he or she deserves. Your closing statement.
I was following the previous conversations with on the finance bill, and it's still in line with the bills and policies. And it is important for us as Kenyans to understand that we have a very important role to play in shaping how these policy frameworks look like. So let us not sit back. Let us engage our policymakers. We choose them. We are the ones who employed them. So let us hold them to task and to account.
Thank you very much, Muturi Kamau, who is a National Network Coordinator for the Kenya Oil and Gas Working Group. We're talking about the Natural Resources Benefit Sharing Bill, in as much as we are looking at the finance bill. These are some of the things that also are also in line for Parliament to have a look at how even communities can benefit from the natural resources, from where they come from, and also ensure that we conserve the environment well. So much for watching. My name is Bentro Injue. Lensa Odingo has been our sign language interpreter for this show. I'm now handing the baton to the Swahili desk with Kurunzi, Mashinani and Tamrini. Thank you so much for watching. Gladys?
Asante sana Bentro Injue. Sijui nianze kwa lugha ya Kimombo na niseme thank you so much. Lakini mtazamaji, bila kupoteza muda, niruhusu nikukaribishe rasmi kwenye taarifa zetu za Kurunzi Mashinani siku ya leo, ikiwa ni Juni tarehe 13 mwezi wa 6 mwaka 2022. Mimi naitwa Gladys Mungai, na Lensa Odingo atakuwa anakupa taarifa hizi kwa lugha ya ishara. Tunang'oa nanga na taarifa kutoka maeneo ya Kenya na Tanzania, ambapo serikali za Kenya na Tanzania zimeshirikiana kuandaa kikao cha uhamasisho utambulisho wa umma kuhusiana na uwiano miongoni mwa jamii zinazoishi mpakani. Vikao hivyo, mpenzi mtazamaji, vinalenga kudumisha amani miongoni mwa jamii hizo na pia kubainisha ni upande upi mpaka wanaokoishi.
Kamishna wa kaunti ya Kajiado Felix Watakila alisisitiza haja ya kubainisha mipaka baina ya mataifa hayo na kuweka nguzo kama ishara ya mipaka hiyo.
Sisi kama serikali ya Uganda na Kenya hatutakubali. Tunataka hiyo mradi iwe sustainable, idumu, ili kila mwananchi wa Tanzania wa Kenya aone mpaka ya Kenya ndio hii, ya Tanzania ndio hii.
Watakila aliandamana na maafisa wa mipaka ya Kenya, maafisa wa kaunti na wale wa ardhi kutoka Tanzania. Shughuli ya kuhusisha wenyeji katika zoezi la kuweka mipaka ni muhimu kwa vile watahusishwa katika ujenzi wa nguzo za kubainisha mipaka. Maafisa kutoka Tanzania walisema shughuli nzima itakuwa ya wazi na hakuna yeyote atakayefurushwa na kwamba waathiriwa watalipwa fidia.
Tutaandikisha sasa agreement yetu ya serikali ya Kenya na serikali ya Tanzania. Hiyo agreement ndio itakuwa inatuelekeza vile tunafanya kwa mipaka zetu. Wewe sasa utatuambia kwa hii nyumba yako ambayo imekatwa na laini, utatuambia kama wewe ni Mtanzania, tukupeleke Tanzania. Alafu tukucompensate uende Tanzania.
Sorovea kutoka ofisi ya mipaka alitoa maelezo zaidi kuhusu zoezi hilo.
Moja, kwa ni kuweka kwa ajili ya kutafsiri zile alama zinatakiwa zikae wapi, lakini mbili ni kuweka alama zenye kuonekana.
Nchi zote mbili zimewahimiza raia wao kuendelea kuishi kwa amani wakati na baada ya zoezi hilo.
Kwa yangu machache.
Kwingineko, mtazamaji, ni kwamba walimu wakuu wa shule katika kaunti ya Kisii hatimaye wamepokea mgao wa serikali kugharamia mishahara ya wafanyikazi pamoja na kununua vifaa vya mafunzo katika shule ya eneo hilo. Shule moja iliyonufaika na mgao huo ni shule ya upili ya Riokindo, ambayo mwalimu mkuu wake Gerard Orina alitoa shukrani, lakini akalalamika kuhusu bei ya juu ya chakula na bidhaa nyinginezo. Aidha, alitoa wito kwa wabunge kubuni sheria ambayo itahakikisha mgao sawa wa shule zote, kuziwezesha kuhimiza makali ya masuala ya kiuchumi.
I want to thank the Cabinet Secretary for Education and the government in general for considering schools and sending the capitation money that has helped to alleviate the situation in which we were. It will enable us to have the children in school, even though, again, things are not very good on the ground. One, prices of commodities keep on increasing. Maize that we used to purchase a few years ago at 3,000, now it is 10,000. Beans that we used to purchase at 6,000, 9,000, now it is 20,000 plus, and the commodities are not even available.
Katika taarifa inayofungamana na masuala ya siasa na masuala ya watoto ni kwamba shirikisho la leba ulimwenguni ILO limetoa wito wa kukomesha kwa ajira kwa watoto. Shirikisho hilo, mpenzi mtazamaji, liliandaa mazungumzo ya ngazi za juu jana kuadhimisha siku ya kimataifa ya kukomesha ajira kwa watoto, ambayo yalijikita kwenye uhusiano kati ya haki za kijamii na kukomesha kwa ajira ya watoto.
Mazungumzo hayo yalijumuisha wawakilishi na wafanyakazi, waajiri na serikali. Kwenye hotuba yake kwa njia ya video, katibu mkuu wa shirikisho la ILO, Gilbert F. Hungbo, alitoa wito wa hatua za dharura kukabiliana na tatizo hilo linalozidi kuongezeka.
For the first time in 20 years, child labor is on the rise. 160 million children, almost 1 in 10 worldwide, are in child labor.
Shirikisho hilo limesema mataifa yamekuwa yakiweka mikakati ya kupunguza ajira miongoni mwa watoto tangu mwaka 2000, lakini juhudi hizo zinatatizwa na ongezeko la mizozo na majanga, likiwemo lile la COVID-19 ambayo yamesababisha ufukara kwenye familia nyingi na kuwashinikiza watoto wengi kutafuta ajira. Shirikisho hilo linatoa wito wa kuwekwa sera za kisheria zinazoambatana na mkakati na viwango vya shirikisho la hilo, pamoja na kuhakikisha elimu bora kwa wote na njia nyingine za kupunguza ufukara kama baadhi ya mbinu za kumaliza ajira ya watoto. Siku ya kukomesha ajira miongoni mwa watoto ilizinduliwa mwaka 2002 ili kuangazia masaibu ya watoto walio katika ajira. Awali, Umoja wa Mataifa kwenye malengo yake ya maendeleo endelevu lilidhamiria kukomesha ajira ya watoto kufikia mwaka 2025. Kwa mujibu wa shirika hilo, wapo watoto zaidi ya milioni 2 walio katika ajira katika mataifa yaliyostawi ikiwemo Marekani. Sheila Kayaru Yogo nikiripotia makala ya Kurunzi Mashinani.
Mtazamaji, taarifa hiyo kuhusiana na masuala ya watoto ndio mojawapo ya kigezo kwenye makala yetu ya Tamrini hii leo. Kwa hivyo basi usiondoke. Lakini tukisonga mbele ni kwamba afisi ya msajili wa vyama vya kisiasa imeyataka mashirika ya kijamii pamoja na makundi ya kidini kuwa katika mstari wa mbele katika kuangazia maslahi ya jamii katika vyama vya kisiasa. Mkurugenzi wa usimamizi katika ofisi ya Ezekiel Obonyo amehimiza makundi dhaifu kupigania nyadhifa katika vyama vya kisiasa. Obonyo alisema hayo wakati wa warsha siku 2 ya makundi ya kijamii iliyofanyika huko kaunti ya Mombasa.
Na pia kulingana na wangapi wamechaguliwa katika hiyo chama. Pia kuna ile percentage ya vijana wangapi wamechaguliwa kwa hiyo chama, kuna percentage yake. Na wale wanaishi na ulemavu ni wangapi?
Sisi ndio kama link kati ya hizi taasisi zote na wananchi. Na pia sisi wanga tunawaelimisha. So sisi tukipata ufahamu kutoka upande huu, sisi tuweza kuwafikia kwa sababu ORPP hawaizi fikia ile the wider public.
So tunataka kujua wameweka mikakati gani ambao watakuwa wanawafuatilia on how to behave mpaka election ifike.
Mtazamaji, katika makala yetu kuhusiana na Ifahamu China, leo tunaangazia sekta ya kahawa na matumizi ya jinsi yanavyotangazwa kupitia wiki ya utamaduni wa kahawa jijini Shanghai. Zakia Pang na maelezo kamili.
Hujambo na karibu katika kipindi cha Ifahamu China. Mimi ni Zakia Peng. Harufu nzuri ya kahawa inanukia kando ya mto Huangpu huko Xuhui, Shanghai, wakati wiki ya 3 ya utamaduni wa kahawa mjini Shanghai ilipozinduliwa. Sherehe za mwaka huu za wiki ya kahawa zinatarajiwa kufanyika kwa nusu mwezi, kipindi ambacho matukio mengi ya kuvutia yatafanyika, ikiwemo ufunguzi wa tamasha la kimataifa la kahawa la West Bund na mtindo wa maisha, kuonja bure kahawa katika maeneo mbalimbali ya mji huo, maonyesho ya kahawa na maigizo na kahawa na michezo. Katika siku ya ufunguzi, wawakilishi kutoka mikahawa kadhaa ya kahawa walikutana katika kitengo cha kimataifa cha mawasiliano katika makao makuu ya shirika kuu la utangazaji la China mjini Shanghai. Kwa pamoja walishuhudia kutangazwa kwa kahawa kwa pamoja. Hafla hiyo iliandaliwa na makao makuu ya CMG mjini Shanghai kwa lengo la kutangaza utamaduni wa kahawa na kuwakutanisha watu pamoja ili kufurahia kahawa. Wimbo maalum wa Karnivali ya kahawa kwa pamoja ulizinduliwa na kuonyesha picha za kahawa na mtindo wa maisha wa kahawa katika maeneo mbalimbali maarufu ya Shanghai, ikionyesha upendo wa mji na taswira ya kimataifa inayohusishwa katika utamaduni wa kahawa mjini humo. Maduka kadhaa maarufu yanayotambulika katika sekta hiyo yalipokeza tuzo mbalimbali. Shanghai, maskani ya zaidi ya mikahawa 8,000 ya kahawa, imefanya maonyesho hayo tangu mwaka 2021 Wiki ya utamaduni wa kahawa ya mwaka huu imeandaliwa na shirikisho la matangazo ya ubunifu na utamaduni la Shanghai na yatamalizika tarehe 2 Juni. Kahawa imekuwa sehemu muhimu ya utamaduni wa Shanghai, ikionyesha umaalum wa mji huo wa ufunguaji mlango na ujumuishi. Kutoka sanaa ya miji ya kikombe cha kahawa kinachotembea na michoro mingi ya kumbukumbu za vikombe vya kahawa, mpaka maagizo ya awali kupitia mtandaoni, vifunganisho vyenye jumbe za kahawa. Bonanza hiyo ya mji mzima inaingiza mapenzi ya kahawa katika kila eneo la maisha. Inaonyesha fursa zisizopimika za kahawa ndani ya mji wa Shanghai na kuwawezesha wakazi kufurahia matarajio makubwa ya sekta ya kahawa na uchangamfu wa mji huo mkubwa. Kuanzia Mei 18 hadi 21, tamasha la kimataifa la kahawa la Westbound na mtindo wa maisha linafanyika katika eneo la Xuhui Binjiang, likijumuisha zaidi ya maduka 100 ya chapa za kahawa katika ufukwe wa mto Huangpu na kuunda maonyesho marefu zaidi ya kahawa katika historia kufanyika nje katika eneo hilo. Waandaaji wa maonyesho hayo wamesema ni mara ya kwanza kwa Shanghai kuzindua soko kubwa la kahawa, zaidi ya kufurahia kahawa iliyotengenezwa hapo hapo. Wageni wanaweza kushiriki shughuli mbalimbali kama maonyesho, muziki na semina ili kufahamu zaidi utamaduni wa kahawa. Haya, kwa leo kipindi hiki kinaishia hapa. Katika kipindi kijacho nitaendelea kukuletea mambo mengine yanayovutia kuhusu utamaduni na jamii ya China. Asante kwa kuwa nami. Mimi ni Zakia Peng. Kwa heri.
Mtazamaji wako na huko upande wa pili wa studio kukuletea kipindi cha Tamrini. Kwa hivyo basi usiruke.
To get Skizatune Hail Mary, dial *811 *963 #.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed